There's a moment in life when you feel like you've done everything right. The affirmations, the vision boards, the late-night scripting, the podcasts on loop, and yet, nothing moves. The same unanswered texts, the same bills stacking, the same invisible glass ceiling pressing down. You start wondering if this whole manifestation thing is just a comforting story people tell to mask disappointment. But here's what cracks the floor beneath that doubt. There is a real phenomenon, one that even quantum physicists whisper about because it unsettles the very foundation of what we call reality. The observer effect. The bizarre, proven discovery that matter itself does not fully decide how to appear until it is observed, until awareness touches it. Now, what no textbook fully explains, and what I want to show you, is how this effect isn't just happening in particle labs. It's happening in your body, your emotions, your identity, every single moment. The hidden trigger that changes everything isn't some chant or external trick. It's the way your awareness tunes reality the same way a hand adjusts a radio dial. The catch? You can't just think your way there. You can't hammer the universe with desperate thoughts and hope it bends. You've already noticed that doesn't work. The real mechanism runs deeper, beneath thought, beneath surface feelings, into the vibrational identity you carry in your nervous system, in your heart, in your cells. That's where the paradox lives. Scientists can measure the effect, but they can't explain why it happens. You don't need their explanation. You need the doorway. And in the next breath, I'll show you how to step through. Think about it. You can walk into a room, say nothing, and people can feel you. They know if you're tense, open, heavy, or light without a word leaving your mouth. That invisible signal you carry, that's the true manifestation broadcast. It's not your vision board taped to the fridge. It's not the journal entry written 10 times. It's the silent frequency you radiate, and it works like a radio dial. Imagine reality as an infinite field of stations, all playing at once. There's a station where the version of you with financial freedom already exists. There's another where you're still stuck in lack. One where the love you long for is natural, and another where heartbreak repeats itself. Every possibility is already on air, broadcasting in parallel. Which one comes through your speakers depends entirely on the dial you hold inside. Here's where the quantum link shows up. The observer effect says reality doesn't fully materialize until awareness interacts with it. You aren't just a passive observer, though. You're both the tuner and the receiver. The field is waiting for the coherence of your inner signal to decide which timeline stabilizes. If your mind says, "I'm abundant," but your body clenches with fear every time a bill arrives, the field doesn't hear the words. It hears the static. And static tunes you to a very different station than the one you intended. This is why so many people feel frustrated when they try to think positive. They're broadcasting two signals at once, a mental wish and a somatic resistance. And the field always favors coherence over noise. The clearest, most consistent frequency wins. So the hidden trigger isn't in the wish or the want. It's in the embodiment, in the way your awareness settles into a state that feels real enough for your nervous system to call it safe. When safety and identity align, the field locks onto that station. Reality bends. But here's the twist. Most of what you've been told about raising your vibration is backwards. And once you see why, the entire game of manifestation flips on its head. One of the biggest myths in manifestation is the idea that if you just push enough positive thoughts into your mind, the universe will respond like a vending machine. You've probably heard the advice, just think happy. Don't let a single negative thought in. But here's the problem. Your nervous system isn't fooled by a forced smile. Your body knows when it's in fear, in contraction, in survival. And when your body says, "I'm unsafe," it doesn't matter how many affirmations you repeat. The broadcast still carries static. Let me paint you a scene. Picture someone refreshing their phone, waiting for a text back from the person they're dating. Hours pass. The mind says, "Stay calm. Don't obsess." They'll answer. But under the surface, the chest is tight, the stomach is knotted, the nervous system is screaming, "What if they don't want me?" That tension is the actual frequency that's being tuned into the field. The observer effect isn't measuring what you wish you felt. It's amplifying what you're actually embodying. And this is why so many people end up chasing instead of attracting. They think manifestation is about pushing their thoughts hard enough to overwrite the body's truth. But physics doesn't reward force. It rewards coherence. The clearer your internal station, the stronger the external match, which means the work isn't about silencing fear with louder affirmations. It's about creating safety in your system so the body no longer broadcasts panic underneath the words. So when that text finally does come, not because you begged the universe for it, but because you shifted your station, you'll notice the energy feels different. It's not a desperate relief. It's a calm recognition that the outer matched the inner. This flips the old myth on its head. Manifestation is not about controlling every thought. It's about integrating the body, the emotions, and the identity until the broadcast is clean. You don't need perfection. You need alignment. But here's where the real power switch hides. You can't just create temporary states of alignment and expect permanent change. And that's where most people get stuck, because they confuse a fleeting state with an identity. If the hidden trigger is coherence, then the doorway to it is your nervous system. Think about it. When your body believes it's in danger, even if the danger is just an unpaid bill or a late reply, every cell prioritizes survival. Blood flow shifts away from growth, digestion, and creativity. Your heart rate climbs, your breath shortens, and without realizing it, you start broadcasting a frequency of urgency. That urgency scrambles the signal. But when your body feels safe, a different broadcast emerges. Your heart and brain slip into rhythm, your breath deepens, and the signal stabilizes. Suddenly, the field can lock on to the version of reality that resonates with your safety. This is not mystical hand-waving. Researchers studying heart-brain coherence have shown how emotional states like gratitude, calm, and compassion literally reorganize our physiology. And when your physiology reorganizes, your broadcast sharpens. The beautiful part is that safety can be practiced. You don't have to wait for the world to make you feel safe before you tune your station. You can create the signal now. Let's try a quick experiment. Wherever you are, close your eyes for a moment. Drop your shoulders. Take a slow breath in through your nose, counting to 4. Hold for 2. Exhale gently through your mouth, counting to 6. Do that again. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 6. Now, bring to mind one simple image that makes you feel warm. It could be a pet, sunlight on your skin, the smile of someone you trust. Let your chest soften as you hold that image. Notice how your body shifts, even if just a little, into a state of, I'm okay. That shift, right there, is coherence beginning. You've just changed your frequency, not by hammering a new thought into place, but by letting your nervous system feel safe enough to open. That's the hidden art. Manifestation flows when your body believes it can. But here's the catch. You can't stop at a temporary state, because safety, as powerful as it is, only stabilizes the signal in the moment. If you want reality to keep reflecting your deepest desires, the next leap isn't about practicing calm. It's about transforming who you believe you are at the core. A calm state can shift your frequency for a while. But here's the truth that most people miss. States are fragile. They come and go. You can breathe your way into safety in the morning, but one email or one unexpected bill can send you spiraling right back into contraction. States are like weather, powerful, but temporary. Identity, though, is climate. It's the underlying pattern that keeps reproducing itself no matter what storm passes overhead, and the universe responds far more to your climate than to your weather. Think about it. You can put yourself in a relaxed state before a job interview, maybe even visualize success. But if deep down, your identity is still the person who never gets chosen, the field hears that broadcast louder than your temporary calm. You'll walk in, your words might sound polished, but your body leaks the deeper message. I don't belong here. The observer effect doesn't care what you're pretending to feel. It reflects what you are at the level of identity. This is why people can meditate for weeks, feel blissful in the moment, and still find themselves stuck in the same loops. They've mastered shifting states, but they haven't stepped into a new identity. The field is coherent enough to give them moments of peace, but not stable enough to rewire the timeline they're living on. Here's the good news. Identity isn't fixed. It's programmable. Every coherent state you practice can become a brick in the foundation of a new self-concept if you're willing to rehearse it until your body recognizes it as home. That's when manifestation stops being something you try to do. It becomes who you are, and this is where the mirror flips. You're not attracting outcomes to validate who you already think you are. You're selecting timelines that match the identity you've stabilized. The person who is abundant doesn't have to force abundance. The person who is loved doesn't need to chase reassurance. But there's a deeper layer still, one that almost nobody talks about. Because if identity is the real broadcast, then what exactly happens when you shift identities? You're not just changing how you feel. You're literally tuning into a different version of reality, one that was always available but hidden from your old station. And that leads us directly into the secret mechanics of timelines, a revelation that changes everything you thought you knew about choice. If identity is the real broadcast, then what happens when it shifts? This is where quantum mechanics offers us a breathtaking clue. The multiverse idea, parallel timelines existing side by side, isn't just a science fiction trope. It's a way of imagining how every possible version of you already exists, waiting for your awareness to tune the dial. When you change identities, you don't drag your old reality with you. You step sideways into a station that was already playing. Think of it like this. You don't create abundance out of thin air. You shift into the timeline where your identity as an abundant person already exists. You don't force love to appear. You inhabit the version of you who already lives in resonance with it. The external rearranges because the internal dial clicked into a new frequency. Let me give you a scene. Imagine someone sitting at their desk staring at a bank statement. The numbers don't lie. Money is tight. The identity playing in their body is, I'm always behind. The field tunes them into the timeline where bills keep arriving faster than income. They try positive thinking, but the frequency stays scrambled. Now imagine the same person shifting, not pretending, but rehearsing an identity of, I'm the kind of person who always finds a way. At first it feels false, but through consistent practice of coherence, through building somatic anchors that make the body feel safe, that identity begins to settle in. Suddenly, they notice opportunities they once overlooked. They make a call they would have avoided before, and reality starts echoing back the identity shift. It's not magic, it's mechanics. Different station, different music. Here's the kicker. Timelines don't compete, they coexist, which means every time you stabilize a new identity, you're not convincing the universe to give you something. You're aligning with the version of you who already has it. That's why forcing results feels exhausting, because you're trying to pull signals across stations instead of simply tuning in. And this is where embodiment becomes non-negotiable. You can't just declare a new identity with words. Your body has to recognize it as safe, your nervous system has to settle into it, and your actions have to flow naturally from it. That's when the shift locks and the old timeline dissolves. But how do you actually rehearse this? How do you move from fleeting glimpses of a new self into full-on embodiment of a new station? The answer lies in building a toolkit, practical, repeatable drills that anchor identity shifts into your daily life until they stop feeling like practice and start feeling like you. So how do you actually rehearse identity until it stabilizes? How do you take the fragile spark of a new self-concept and turn it into the climate of your life? The key is repetition with embodiment, not just words. Let's break this down into a toolkit you can start using immediately. First, bridge statements. Instead of forcing, I am abundant, when your body screams the opposite, you use language that feels believable. For example, I'm opening to the possibility that money can flow more easily. Or, I'm learning how to feel chosen. These statements act like stepping stones. They don't demand your body leap across a canyon of disbelief. They gently lead it forward until safety builds around the new identity. Second, somatic anchors. Choose a physical cue that signals your system into coherence. Maybe it's pressing your hand against your heart and taking one long exhale. Maybe it's tapping your fingers against your leg while picturing the version of you who already has what you want. Over time, the body links the cue with the broadcast, making it easier to re-enter the frequency quickly, even under stress. Third, embodiment drills. You literally act as if, not in a theatrical way, but in micro movements of daily life. If your new identity is, I belong in every room, then when you walk into a cafe, you straighten your spine, let your breath slow, and move as though belonging is natural. These tiny physical rehearsals matter more than repeating affirmations alone, because the field responds to your coherence, not your slogans. Fourth, micro-commitments. Choose one small action that aligns with your new station. If your identity is, I'm resourceful with money, maybe that means tracking every expense for a week with curiosity instead of shame. If your identity is, I'm loved, maybe it means sending one genuine compliment each day without waiting for a return. Small actions lock identity shifts into the fabric of your lived timeline. Now, let's put it together in a simple protocol. 1. Use a bridge statement to soften resistance. 2. Activate your somatic anchor to cue safety. 3. Rehearse an embodiment drill in a real-world moment. 4. Take a micro-commitment action that proves the new identity to your system. Repeat this cycle daily, and you're no longer just trying to manifest. You're rewiring the climate of your life. And I want to ask you something. Have you noticed the moment you stopped gripping? What you wanted finally showed up? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. But before you run off with this toolkit, there are 3 subtle traps that can quietly unravel your broadcast if you don't spot them. Even with the best toolkit, there are 3 traps that quietly scramble your frequency if you don't catch them. Let's walk through each because recognizing them is half the battle. The first trap is urgency. When you slip into, "I need this now," your body floods with survival signals. Urgency broadcasts lack, even if your words say abundance. It's like tuning the radio but twisting the dial too fast. All you hear is static. The antidote isn't pretending not to care. It's learning to anchor safety in the waiting. That's why coherence practices are vital. When you train your body to feel okay in the space between desire and arrival, urgency loses its grip, and your signal sharpens again. The second trap is split signals. This happens when your mind declares one thing, but your actions quietly affirm the opposite. You might affirm, "I'm worthy of love," but then you scroll through old messages just to see if someone noticed you. You might claim, "I'm abundant," but you avoid opening your bank app because it feels painful. The field doesn't hear what you say. It hears the coherence or the lack of it in your overall station. To resolve split signals, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to close the gap with small, consistent actions that align your behavior with your declared identity. The third trap is over-control. This is the one that sneaks in under the banner of discipline. You try to micromanage every thought, every outcome, every response from the world. But control creates tension, and tension broadcasts resistance. The field reflects that resistance back as delay, blockage, or frustration. The antidote isn't passivity, it's trust. Allowing space for the field to respond doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting from alignment and then releasing the chokehold of needing to know exactly how it unfolds. Here's what's fascinating. These 3 traps are just different faces of the same fear. Fear of not being safe, fear of being left behind, fear of not being enough, which means the same medicine heals them all. Coherence. When your nervous system feels steady, urgency softens, signals unify, and control loosens its grip. So when you stumble into one of these traps, and you will, don't treat it as failure. Treat it as feedback. The static isn't telling you you're broken. It's reminding you to retune. And once you know how to retune, the question becomes, how do you hold that coherence not just in practices, but in the raw moments of ordinary life? This is where the work becomes real. Not in the meditation cushion, not in the journal, but in the texture of your everyday life. Because the true test of coherence isn't whether you can feel aligned in silence. It's whether you can carry that alignment into the middle of a busy street, a crowded conversation, or a meal when your mind wants to rush. Start simple. Walking. Most of us walk as if we're late to somewhere we don't even want to go. Shoulders tense, breath shallow, eyes darting. But what if walking became a rehearsal of your new identity? If your chosen broadcast is abundance, can you walk as if the ground itself is supporting you with every step? If your chosen station is love, can you soften your chest as you pass strangers, letting belonging leak into your stride? Suddenly, walking is no longer just transport, it's tuning. The same goes for eating. When you inhale a meal in a blur, your nervous system treats it like a survival act. But if you pause, breathe, and receive the food with presence, you broadcast safety. You tell the field, "I'm not chasing, I'm receiving." That subtle signal multiplies far beyond the meal. Even conversations become opportunities. Instead of waiting anxiously for your turn to speak, practice listening from your chosen identity. If you're tuning into the timeline where you're valued, notice how differently you listen when you already assume your voice matters. The coherence you radiate in those micro moments shifts how others respond without you forcing a thing. Integration doesn't require hours of ritual. It requires embedding your chosen station into the cracks of daily living. Every breath, every step, every word becomes a chance to embody the climate of the reality you've chosen. That's how identity stops being an idea and becomes your default frequency. And here's the paradox you'll eventually face. Once coherence starts weaving into everything, the signal gets so strong that bigger doors open. Not just small shifts in mood or conversation, but tectonic changes in relationships, creativity, health, and purpose. The station expands. The only question is, will you be ready to step into the larger life that comes rushing in when your signal scales? When your coherence expands beyond daily moments, The field begins to reorganize not just the small details, but the big architectures of your life. Relationships shift, creative energy returns, health patterns unravel and rebuild. Purpose stops being a question and starts being a current that carries you forward. This is where the tuning metaphor becomes breathtakingly clear, because once you stabilize on a higher station, the entire playlist of your life changes. Take relationships. If your old identity was "I'm hard to love," you might have attracted partners who confirmed that story, no matter how many affirmations you whispered. But as coherence grows, your station shifts to "I am naturally worthy of love." Suddenly, you don't chase crumbs. You're magnetized to people who match your broadcast. Conversations feel different. Intimacy deepens, and what once felt like luck becomes a natural echo of the frequency you've stabilized. Now look at creativity. Imagine you're an artist staring at a blank canvas. Old identity whispers, "What if I'm not good enough?" Your hands freeze. The field mirrors that static with more block, more hesitation. But when you practice coherence, when you embody the identity of "I'm someone who creates freely," the station changes. You find yourself moving the brush without effort. The ideas arrive because you've tuned into the version of reality where creativity flows. And health, another powerful domain. The body is not separate from the field. When coherence strengthens, healing accelerates. That doesn't mean ignoring medical care. It means your physiology reorganizes itself in harmony with your chosen station. Stress decreases, immune function improves, and vitality becomes the natural echo of your signal. Let's ground this in a scene. Picture someone in the gym struggling to lift a weight they've failed at a dozen times. Their old station is, "I'm weak, I'll never get there." But today, they pause, breathe into coherence, and embody the identity of, "I'm capable." The lift isn't just physical, it's a broadcast. And when the bar finally moves, they're not just stronger in muscle, they've shifted timelines. That rep becomes proof that a different version of them is now the one broadcasting. Expansion doesn't mean life suddenly becomes frictionless. It means you move through challenges from a different station. The obstacles don't vanish, but your identity no longer interprets them as threats. They become invitations. And when you meet them as invitations, the field mirrors back opportunity where there used to be walls. But underneath all of this expansion lies a deeper question. If the field is listening and responding, then what exactly are you aligning with? Is it just your personal signal, or something much larger moving through you? Up until now, we've been speaking about coherence as if it's purely personal. Your nervous system, your identity, your station. But there's another layer, one that scientists hesitate to name and mystics have whispered about for centuries. The field you're tuning into isn't just yours. It's larger. It's intelligent. It responds not only to who you think you are, but to the degree that you surrender into something vaster than your individual will. This is where the paradox lives. We've been taught that strength means control, grip tighter, plan harder, force outcomes. But in the quantum model, control scrambles the frequency. The more you grip, the more static you introduce. True strength is surrender, not collapse, not passivity, but releasing the need to micromanage the how. When you let go, your signal clarifies. The field has space to respond. Think of it like the difference between clenching your fist around a radio dial versus letting your hand relax enough to turn it smoothly. One jams the mechanism, the other allows the station to lock in. This is why some of the most extraordinary breakthroughs happen not when people force them, but when they finally release. The relationship that shows up after years of searching, the opportunity that lands once you stop obsessing, the healing that unfolds after surrendering the timeline. These aren't accidents. They are reflections of the field responding to a signal unclouded by fear and control. And here's the deeper invitation. When you step into this kind of surrender, you're no longer just manifesting a private wish list. You're aligning with what some call universal intelligence, others call source, and others simply feel as life itself. In this alignment, your desires stop being separate from the flow of reality. They become expressions of it. That's why surrender isn't weakness. It's the highest form of coherence. Because the moment you release the fight, your nervous system relaxes, your heart synchronizes, your frequency steadies. And in that steadiness, the field can reflect not only what you think you want, but something even larger, the unfolding of a life that feels designed for you, yet beyond what your mind could have scripted. So yes, you are the tuner. Yes, you are the station. But the music you're tuning into, that comes from something far greater than your individual effort. And once you taste that, you realize manifestation isn't about controlling reality at all. It's about becoming porous enough to let reality reveal itself through you. And that brings us to the final step, weaving everything we've uncovered into one image, one thread, that ties the entire journey together. When you zoom out and look at everything we've uncovered, it becomes stunningly simple. Reality is not withholding from you. It's broadcasting all possibilities at once, like an endless spectrum of stations already playing. The question has never been, will the universe give it to me? The real question is, which station am I tuned to right now? You've seen how thoughts alone don't tune the dial. The field doesn't respond to slogans. It responds to coherence, the way your nervous system settles, the way your identity stabilizes, the way your body signals safety. That's the hidden quantum trigger scientists can't explain, but can't deny. Awareness doesn't just observe reality, it organizes it. Your frequency doesn't just describe who you are, it decides which timeline you stand in. So imagine this. Every time you breathe yourself into safety, you're adjusting the dial. Every time you embody the identity of the person who already belongs, already thrives, already creates, you're locking into a clearer station. Every small action that proves your new self to your body is another turn of the knob. And one day, almost without noticing, you realize the static is gone. The music comes in clean. The life you longed for isn't arriving. It's already here, because you're tuned to the version of you who lives it. That's the final paradox. Manifestation isn't about forcing the universe to bend. It's about remembering that all the stations exist right now, and coherence is your passport. You don't manifest what you beg for or what you pretend to believe. You manifest the frequency you embody when body, mind, and heart broadcast the same signal. So as you step back into your day, notice the moments the static creeps in. Notice the breath that can retune you. Notice the identity waiting to be rehearsed until it becomes who you are. And if something in you clicked while listening, if you felt the dial shift even one notch, stay with it. That tiny adjustment is how timelines change. That's how everything changes.